Joining us now, Democratic Congresswoman Mikey Sherrill, a former Navy helicopter pilot, former federal prosecutor. First of all, I want to go back and ask you about Speaker Pelosi not bending to Kevin McCarthy's threat. Is that the right decision? And what does it mean for the future of the credibility of this investigation?
Well, hi, Andrea. Yeah, certainly it's a disappointing setback. I think anyone who heard that we were going to set up a congressional committee and Kevin McCarthy was going to make picks would have predicted that one of those picks would have been a hack like Jim Jordan, somebody who was not serious, who was going to try to blow up the procedures. But this wasn't the committee, of course, of choosing. We wanted an independent, bipartisan commission. But that said, once we decided to move down this path, we should have been ready for this. And I don't think we should be afraid of this fight. I think that the American people should hear the truth. They deserve the truth. We need to have an investigation into this. And quite frankly, I would put Liz Cheney against Jim Jordan any day of the week.
Well, doesn't this put Liz Cheney in a really difficult position? First of all, she'll play a much more important role potentially, but it also further isolates her from the rest of her party.
You know, Liz Cheney, who I have disagreed with on many occasions, we both sit on the House Armed Services Committee. I'm from New Jersey, she's from Wyoming. We have different policy views, but she acted and has been acting very courageously. I wish every member of Congress could have one iota of her courage in the last several weeks, standing up for what's right for this country, not putting her own agenda first. And so I think this is further isolating her. It's not, I'm sure, helpful to her, but she has chosen to put this country before her own selfish personal interests, which I wish more members of the Republican Party would consider doing.
Should the Speaker try to find some other former Republicans, perhaps, who might be willing to play a role, as has been reported, might be considered?
Well, like I said, the gold standard, what we had negotiated for and with Republicans and had been prepared to move forward on was an independent bipartisan commission. That's what we wanted to see. And quite frankly, Republicans received most of what they requested in that commission. And unfortunately, Kevin McCarthy pulled the rug out from under on that. He's decided to put loyalty to Trump over this country, really, and getting to the bottom of what happened on January 6th and ensuring it never happens again. And so I think what we need to do now with this congressional committee is get as close to that as possible. But it's my hope that eventually, like with the 9/11 congressional committee, we can eventually turn this investigation over to an independent bipartisan commission.
As a veteran, I also want to ask you your reaction to General Milley's role as recounted in Phil and Carol's book on how he was afraid of a coup and how prepared they were to stand up, to resign if necessary.
You know, none of this reporting surprises me, having worked with General Milley over the last several years on the House Armed Services Committee. Make no mistake, he was put in an incredibly difficult position. Our military is separate from our civilian government. Our military is not and should not be political or partisan. And yet he's also taken an oath to protect and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. So he was working incredibly hard to ensure there was a peaceful transition of government. And for those who criticize him, I would say that is not a partisan view. That is our democracy, and that is defending our Constitution. And I think he worked incredibly hard to do that, and I commend him for that work.
Congresswoman Mikey Sherrill, thank you very much for being with us.